research has been done to say that people spend about 3 seconds, between 3 and 8 seconds looking at a CV, a hiring manager. So if you bear that in mind, they haven't got time to read through paragraphs and paragraphs of what you've been doing in that recent role. It almost needs to be like a tick list. The point of the CV, and again, it all sounds really sort of self-explanatory, but it's to record your experience in education. It's a chance to show off your skills, and it's your first introduction into a company. And we just ask people to have a think about what happens when your CV lands at the organisation that you're trying to contact. It will go to, obviously, to email across to somebody's inbox, and just to have a think about what you're trying to achieve from sending that CV across to the company. And again, it sounds really obvious, but it's easy to forget when you're sort of in it that this will actually be reviewed by an actual person. So it's really important that we get it right, and it's a great introduction, but the whole point of it is to show off your skills, and you'd be really surprised at the amount of things people don't put on their CV that could be relevant or could be useful.
So we would say, as recruiters, we like to see a fairly kind of standard structure. You don't need to try and make it really jazzy with loads of graphics or anything.
If it comes to putting breaks on your CV, I think as long as you can either explain them with a short sort of note, or be ready to explain it in a covering letter or the supporting email, that's absolutely fine. And just making sure you're not apologising for any gaps for whatever reason that might be, whether it's illness or maternity or travelling, whatever that is. It's just making sure that there is a reason for it. Really specific things, if you're doing a course, or if you've just graduated, or if you've just finished up a placement, or why you're actively looking, what you're looking for. It's a really good way to sort of wrap it up quite neatly at the top, and like Victoria says, you can tailor it for each application that you're making. We sat on a panel a few years ago with the Royal Television Society with an HR director from Warner Brothers and the CEO of a really well-known production company. We were talking about CVs, and we were saying between us, we probably get about 200, we all get about 200 CVs a week. We're even more at the moment as an agency. And the research has been done to say that people spend about 3 seconds, between 3 and 8 seconds looking at a CV, a hiring manager. So if you bear that in mind, they haven't got time to read through paragraphs and paragraphs of what you've been doing in that recent role. It almost needs to be like a tick list.
This is kind of way of like very easily sort of your education section. Don't worry if you don't have a degree. It doesn't. So we're not saying you have to have a degree at all, but or A levels, whatever. But I mean, if you do, then this is kind of quite a simple way of laying it out in terms of sort of, if you've got a degree, obviously at the top, A levels, your grades, and then with your GCSEs, we just need to know how many and kind of what sort of grade level it was. So you don't have to kind of specify every single grade that you got for every GCSE.
The do's are to make your CV really clear, neat and tidy. Try and tailor your CV to the job. So just going back to the neat and tidy, I mean, I know some people in the questions have asked about font and that kind of thing. I mean, just use a kind of standard Arial or something along those lines. Just keep it really kind of clear and neat. Don't try and use like lots of jazzy fonts or things like that. Tailor your CV to the job. So obviously try and bring out the kind of relevant work experience that you've got specifically to the job. So I will always say, like, go through a job spec and try and mirror what they're asking for in the job spec if that's things that you've covered. We've kind of said keep it short and sweet, but not too short. Obviously try and make sure you've got plenty of information in there, but don't go overload. Use your bullet points wherever you can. It's a really good way of getting across why you're applying for that particular type of job, why you feel like you'd be suitable for it. It really gives you the opportunity to kind of target the position that you're applying for. If somebody's written a really good, concise, specific cover letter, it really shows that they've taken the time as well to do that, kind of emphasises their interest in the role. Again, make it clear and persuasive, so you can draw out your relevant, maybe transferable experience. So even if you maybe don't have that kind of specific work experience, you can talk about other things that might make you really suitable for the role. So it's just about kind of selling yourself that little bit more. and again, sort of bring in your personality.
When the panel that I mentioned before that we sat on with the guy from this production company, he was saying that he gets sort of 100 applications a week for people that want to be runners. And one of the questions to him was, how do you sort of just decide who to call or who to bring in? And he said that he would always go for somebody that has mentioned, has either done a short covering note in their in the body of the email, or as as a separate attachment, and that is tailored to his company, the role they're applying for, or the content that they're producing, or even him, and they followed his career as a producer over the years. So it really is an opportunity, a covering letter, again, to sort of set you aside from another candidate who might have a really similar experience to you.
So again, keep it fairly short, so a page is ideal if possible. Tailor your cover letter for each separate employer or job. So as we've said, like, you can really tell if somebody's just sending the same cover letter to each job. Show your specific interest in the company or the role, and mention your skill set and show a bit of your personality.
You have statistically around a second and a half to get someone's attention. So I have what it's called the 2-click rule. Someone's going to play a second and a half at the beginning of a show reel. They're going to click in the middle of it, watch 2 seconds of that, click at the very end of it, watch 2 seconds of that. And if you've survived those 2 clicks, they will watch the entire show reel to see if you are capable of what they're looking for. The lovely thing about making show reels is that it's the most important time to show your character. So you have unlimited choices in music. You're legally allowed to use whatever you want. So if you want to use Hans Zimmer, do something a bit more emotional. If you want to do something kind of funny and poppy, then you can do that as well. Or if you want to merge the two together, it's the most important way of being able to give yourself a beginning, middle, and an end musically. Finding your niche is probably the most important thing you can do as a filmmaker. As soon as you find your niche, that's what people will put you into. So a lot of people start off their show reels with their names massive, and there's a very slow transition and all this stuff. And if you're not Ridley Scott, it doesn't really matter. At the end of the day, the people already know your name because it will say your name on the file or whatever it is. Obviously have it at the very end. But you don't need to sort of be that boisterous and big about all that sort of stuff. Being humble sometimes is always a really lovely thing to do. If you're going to do that, then do the complete opposite and make it funny. Well, I mean, lay down the song first. If you lay down the track first, the track will tell you what to do. So if you cut to the rhythm, try not to, if you're showing off your editing skills, try not to cut every single time on the beat, because your eye will naturally start to fall into it a little bit too much. And then you realize, well, this isn't really editing. This is just 1, 2, 3, 2, 2, 3. And then people get bored of it very, very quickly. But try and follow what the music tells you. How do show reels work where sets decoration is concerned? Oh, that's very good question. I mean, hopefully, I've seen it before where people have done time lapses for that sort of thing. You working as a set decorator can possibly show the skills that you've instigated. If you don't have that, then you can show a before and after, maybe with some photos and maybe some nice transitions. They do that a lot in visual effects. Are you showing your eye or your brain? So if you're going to do something creative, make it really, really creative. Do something very, very unique, like shock people into showing who you are. If you're showing your eye and you're a cinematographer, you might want to hold on those shots a little bit longer, because that's what you're doing. Cinematographers will normally show a wide angle shot more than anything, because they're trying to show off the beautiful scale of what they've created. There's definitely, I mean, the best way to look at it is sometimes when you look at television promos, someone asked earlier about showing a director's show reel. Television promos for, Channel 4 movies or whatever they are can sometimes be so well intricately cut together that if you presented your trailer or your show reel like a trailer, it might actually put you in a really good light, and it shows your storytelling ability as well. But the most important thing, as I will say, is just to keep the balance of confidence and vanity. It's a very fine line. And if you have a weak show reel and you haven't got what you wanted to do, I got my first agent by creating a show reel out of other movies and ripping it together to show how I was as an editor, what I could do story-wise. And I got them to communicate to each other in the show reel as if they were talking about me. And it was more to show my editing ability. If you have a weaker show reel and you're not going into editing, and if it comes to sound design or something like that, you could do the same sort of thing. If you're doing it for, as you say, directing or something like that, you've got to get out there and direct some stuff. It could be an interview, and if you've only got, someone said to me the other day, if you've only got talking heads, because they do a lot of corporate videos, edit it together as if they're talking about you or talking about the world coming to an end or something like that, and then turn it into a comedy piece. There's a lot of things you can do with potentially what you have, more so than you would probably expect. It's just finding another way of coming around it. And I think from an employment point of view, they'll look at that and go, this is unique. The person's used their mind in a completely different way, and it shows that they're creative thinkers. And that's the most important thing to get across in your show reel. Unless it's technical excellence, it's your creative process that people are really going to be buying into.